Hello. I first got into the whole modular thing because I basically wanted an MS-20. To me, there was no greater monosynth. It was just a combination of super cool, badass sound. I really loved that Mr. Wazzo album, the Analog Worms Attack, and it was just like, I want the machine that can make that. It's just the meanest, coolest synth. Unfortunately, at the time, you couldn't just walk into a shop and buy an MS-20 like bizarrely and awesomely you can now. So I took a slightly different path. I figured that for the kind of money that you could buy a second-hand MS-20 for, you could get a really wicked Eurorack system. This was spurred on by an awesome video by a user called Profi, something like this, demonstrating the Doepfer Extreme filter. And that kind of sparked my whole interest in this thing. I was like, damn, that Extreme filter sounds amazing. And it's based on the MS-20. It's a slightly different design. And it led me to look at the filters that Doepfer make, and then therefore all the other ones. I realized that there's this whole world of cloned or close to clone filter models in Eurorack. It's one of the coolest and most exciting things about this format is that the filter is obviously such an enormous part of a subtractive analog synth. Without the filter, it's kind of everything. There's pretty much a Eurorack filter for almost every classic synth that you can imagine, and perhaps more besides. So head to Google, type in the name of your favorite synth, add Eurorack filter, and it's likely that you're going to come up with a Euroracked version of it. I particularly highlight the models made by Doepfer, fathers of Eurorack, because they are very, very affordable, and there are lots of them. So there's a ton of really, really well-made, very nice feeling filters out there made by Doepfer, which sound great. Most of my filters, in fact, all of my filters are based on real synths or inspired by. So what we're going to do today is do very basic tests with each one. I want you to be able to hear the relative characters of each one. I hope this is useful because it's not always easy to find just straight sweeps of a filter, and it's very obvious what the character of the filter is when you do that, and it's unfortunately very unobvious to obtain that from just reading the name of the machine. You need to have heard it for yourself, so I very much hope that you'll find this useful. Definitely it's a question of taste. What one person likes is very much not necessarily what you like. You've got to hear it. So let's begin. And to begin, we should begin at the beginning. And for me, the beginning was the Korgasmatron. Actually, that's not strictly true. I had a filter called the Doepfer A109. Don't worry about that. For me, the beginning was wanting an MS-20. And the Korgasmatron gives you this MS-20 vibe. However, it can be cleaner than the MS-20, but it is also capable of driving itself. So it gives you the cleanliness and drive. I've used it before in previous videos. It has this awesome ability to have octave, 1 volt per octave tuned resonance, which is ace, and it's dual like the MS-20. Also ace. So 2 filters, which can be low pass, notched, and high pass. And because you can put them in series and parallel, you can do awesome stereo things. You can do awesome vocal things. You can sort of like clamp the filters against each other and do this kind of twisty vowel thing. But today, we're just going to hear the innate character. So I have a triangle, a saw even, coming from the Doepfer A110 standard VCO. Important to point out, by the way, sounds great. There's nothing standard about it. Okay. This is with the input set to about half. No Q, aka resonance, or Q drive. Let's do that again with a little bit of Q. You can hear it's already starting to do this kind of meowy sort of burnished thing. And if we increase the drive more, ooh, starting to burn, more Q. Even more Q. Oh hey. Even more Q. Most Q. starts to do that, where it picks up bass. You are wearing headphones, aren't you? Well, you've got a big sub, I hope. So, if we increase the input drive even more, to the full, so you hear this kind of burnish thing, and if I increase the Q drive, which is a sort of additional drive control, it takes things from the sublime to the ridiculous. So if we give this some modulation, where are you modulation? Here's modulation. So I'll stick that in there and then do that. Ouchie. It's fierce. So, you hear that MS-20-ness, that kind of raunchy, raw filth. I remember the first time I heard the Korgasmatron. I was in Schneider's bureau. I was a young man. It was very momentous. I literally did this and was like, I'm gonna buy this now. I'm gonna buy it. There's no two ways about it. Anyway, so cool. Also cool. So you hear very raunchy or quite polite, but with this hint of kind of burnt character. Boo! Let's put the square into it. Wicked. Number 2, friends, and this time it's the RP post-lawsuit filter. This is the filter made after the so-said non-existent lawsuit which caused ARP to change the filter that was inside their 2600s. They redesigned it. This is based on, not a clone per se, but very inspired, close enough, as they say, to be considered the C word to the 2600. And Lord knows, I want a 2600 too. So, very excited to have this. Same input signal, a triangle from the A110, and we're just going to sweep the output. We have no resonance at all, or modulation. It's important to point out, by the way, these parts feel ridiculously great. Already hearing the kind of trumpety kind of sound. Now, with a bit of resonance. There is a tiny bit of bleed with this. There's a mod that you can do apparently to reduce this. More resonance. We're just over to the right here. really like this. Hey! And it does that. It's the sort of slightly nasal character. Which is just cool. That. Let's stick some modulation in. Super cool. Get your R2D2 on. Makes sense. Ouch. Very cool. This one is the A103 VCF6, an 18 decibel low pass filter based on the TB303. That's with half resonance, with no resonance. Just a nice fat filter, but we really recognize it with resonance. There's a level control here, which very nicely will drive. We even better recognize it as a 303. Let's try the square. If I was Nick from Sonic State, I would describe that as smudging. Really cool. And it's one of those ones, if you stick like a 2 oscillator sound through it, a dual oscillator, it doesn't really sound right. Well, it sounds great, but it doesn't sound like a 303. It sounds like a 303 when you treat it like a 303. You only give it a single kind of cycle waveform. Let's give it some modulation. So we have a bunch of modulation input, 3 in fact, which is very nice of them. This is the second, if I cycle him. Nice. Let's try the square. Slightly shape that. I really like the drive that happens through the level here. And if you sequence it, give it some slides, it takes you there. We all want to be John Carpenter. I know what I do. So the SEM filter will hopefully take you there. This is based on the Oberheim SEM, as used by Carpenter, and is a smooth 12 decibel filter, but it's aggressive, or it's fat, I suppose, is more the point. It's not aggressive like the MS-20. It's just like, you'll hear. Anyway, same waveforms. This is the saw. Increase the level a little bit. It drives beautifully. And now we increase the resonance slightly. More resonance. Nice. Most resonance. With most drive. Really good. Here it distorts internally. So, if we stick a voltage in, is it audio rate? Damn. That's it. I'm trying to get my mouse to do the do-do from the thing. Although that's Morricone, but you know what I mean. Ugh. Really fierce, and that's the low pass. There is also a kind of high pass that sweeps in the middle to be a notch. Oh, that tickles my ears. It's just a pretty filthy, interesting filter. And then the band pass, with more of that, and him. Really cool filter. Don't overlook Dopefer. I think a lot of people do. You shouldn't. Make excellent filters. To Roland now, and the SH101. I do have the IntelliGel Atlantis, which is a whole module inspired by the 101, and the Atlantis has an excellent filter, but in this case we're looking at the Dr. Octature 2, which is a similar core to what's in the Atlantis, but much expanded. This actually has interesting things down here where we can tap the filter at different pole stages. I believe the SH101 was a 4-pole filter. There is some conjecture, but I think it was. Certainly this kind of takes you there. And so what we're going to do is just use this on its 4-pole mode without any of the sort of special stuff, just simple low-pass filter. I'm going to leave the Q resonance to 0 and just sweep the cutoff without input drive. It starts to drive internally over the midpoint, a bit like the Orgasmatron. So this is the saw wave. With some Q. More. More. Now the Octature rings in this kind of intense way. It's very ready to get into self-resonance, and it's because it can be used as a VCO, so it uses its resonance, its perfect sine wave, as a kind of sound generating tool. So as a filter trad, we don't go too far with the Q. It gives you that kind of squealy. Sharp. Kind of, well, Rolandy thing. Picks out those sounds in a pretty way. So if we take our modulator, I'll stick it into there. Whoa, audio rate. Less Q. And we can drive the input further. So we can get some pleasing kind of. We can make truly vicious bass drums. Nice. Screwed that. Right, and lastly, our tour must come to an end. We knew it must, with the Wasp. And this is based on the EDP Wasp, which was the cheapy synth made in the GB, which has a very, very particular sound. It's kind of unlike any of the other filters here because the Wasp is just its own thing. It's like this weird wobbly monster. So, here is the Wasp just sort of zeroed out in low pass, medium level. And then more resonance. You can already hear it's got that kind of weird thing starting to happen. It sort of meows. Full resonance. Filters don't normally do that, by the way, but it's normal if you're a Wasp. I guess I'll just leave it doing that. It seems quite happy. Sort of starved of level is like a sort of breaking point. It's such an odd filter. I love it. So weird. Why do you do that? But it really suits being used in a kind of acidic way. So if I put that in, get our filter. So cool. So it's important to point out, I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice in the sense, like, if I didn't have another filter, it wouldn't be the only filter I would have. But then, none of my other filters do that. So weird. So cool. The Wasp. To quickly recap, So that's me filters. These are just my filters. You might like different filters. There's a lot more. Hundreds, in fact. Hundreds and hundreds. So if there is a classic synth that you like the sound of, there is almost certainly a filter out there. So make sure you find out what it is. Get it, and then post the results online, because it is very helpful for other people to be able to hear these things being swept. It's not always possible to make a filter decision based on just a description. That's it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.